Hello my little sugar boogers, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be doing a super duper duper special speed build, complete with a story time. Yes, I am so excited. When I originally created this house, mind you, this is actually built or replicated off of a house that I grew up in from the ages of about 10 all the way to about 15-ish. And the way I say ish is because even though I didn't like stay in this house for a certain period of time, there's just a lot of history and things that have actually happened in this home. And I did live here for an entire year from the ages of 14 to 15. Just to kind of clarify any confusion, this is my sister's house. And due to some unforeseen circumstances when I was 15, my mom and I actually had to live here for a little while just to kind of get back onto our feet. And then when I was a little bit younger, before we had to move into this home, a very spooky paranormal experience actually took place here. I don't know if I already said that. I've done this video a few times now, so I may repeat myself a couple times. Just bear with me. I'm like 10 seconds it's kind of obnoxious. But anyway, I'm going to touch base on the history. There's so much to this story, the land that this house was built on. It's really interesting. So if you're like a huge like historical buff and you're really interested in learning about different types of histories and also learning about, you know, paranormal stuff, I think you'll really enjoy this speed build. It's going to be a very long and special one, so I totally suggest you grabbing yourself some snacks. I got myself my handy dandy purple, girl, you see, are you colorblind? No, I got green mermaid here. And let me clarify, it's Starbucks. It ain't nothing, you know, extracurricular or anything. I don't do that. I never have. But anyway, yeah, so we're going to go ahead and jump on in, and you're going to get me all to yourself for the next 29 minutes. Oh joy. All right, so first let's talk about the house itself as it is in its present state in The Sims 4. So this is the Alder, which I'm sure you know by now since I've completely exploited it all over Twitter. It is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom family house. It kind of is a little bit of a mix between a home that was built in well, let me say something. The original house that I'm like, you know, modeling this after was a home that was made in 1989, the same year I was born. And it's actually replicated off of a house. This is so funny. I'm replicating a house that was replicated off of a house. Off of the homes made in the 1800s. Even the craftsmanship of this house at present day is actually that of the homes that they had made back then. I mean, just like the wood flooring was all hand done, the crown molding, the imported sinks, and all the little tiny details, doorknobs, I mean, this home was just created so beautifully and in an era where I feel like quality started to kind of go down in homes. You know, like a lot of houses these days are just like manufactured, you know, like kind of like puzzle pieces. And the home that was built in 1989 it was made off of the homes that were like hand built in the it was like 1890-ish. I think, I can't remember when this home was replicated after, but it was like 1800s era. So it's a little bit of a home from that time, and it also kind of has a little bit of a farm style house. Like it'd be on like a prairie somewhere, but it's not. It's in the heart of a very historical town with a lot of Native American history, which I am fascinated by the way. But we'll get into all that in just a moment. So again, grab yourself some popcorn because we're going to be here a while. All right, cool. Is that crooked? Because I might have to fix that. All right, okay. Anyway, just before we get started, I did ask my husband, I was like, hey, whose house do you think this is? Without cheating, Bubba, who do you think it is? He goes, that's your sister's house. And I was like, frick yes, man. I was like, yeah, I got it. I nailed it. Like, let's totally upload this beast. I can't wait to show my friends on YouTube. And he's like, you're such a freaking cornball. Like, seriously. And he used to do construction, you guys. So he's like so nitpicky. And I remember when I used to build houses, like, I remember I used to tell you guys I'm no Bob the Builder. I've gotten a little bit better. I'm like Stacy the contractor now. Anyway, he used to freaking drive me nuts. He's like, the roof isn't supposed to look like that or this, that, and the other thing. He had nothing to say this time. Okay. That's right. Bow down, bitches. Bow down, bitches. Okay, let's just, cállate, Jen. Move on. Okay. Anyway, he figured it out. I felt pretty happy. There are a couple things about this house that aren't exactly identical to the replica because we don't have those things in The Sims 4, like L-shaped stairs. So I had to change out the layout a little bit there. And then also the fact that there is a garage, and I could have done a gazebo, but I didn't. And I didn't add in the garage because we don't have cars. So anyway, let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about how I came to this town. And because I don't want to just tell you the story without having some history to it. When I was 14 months old, my mom moved me from Florida. That's right, I'm from Florida, all the way to Washington. And at this present time, a lot of our family members lived in Florida because they came from New York, and they migrated to Florida. And then they started migrating to Washington, which is really interesting. Kind of, I know, like, what would make you want to move all the way there? Like the Pacific Northwest. I mean, that's like completely on the other side of the country. Anyway, so when I was 14 months, my mom ended up moving me from there to this particular town. And the reason why is because my uncle was actually living here at the time. And so we decided to go stay with him for a little bit while my mom basically found a job, got settled in, and we ended up living there until I was about 3 years of age or so. My mom worked as a nursing assistant. If you guys don't know what that is, it's an NIC. Basically, she helps, with the nurses, and it's kind of like a dental assistant for the dentist. Does that make sense? And so she ended up getting a job there in this particular town, which I'm trying not to say just for, like, safety reasons. I wouldn't care if my sister didn't still live in this house to this day, but I do. I'm not trying to have nothing creepy happen to her. So my mom, as she got on her feet, whatever, I was about 3, and she ended up moving me to Renton. Why? I don't know. That's just kind of where we ended up. My sister, before she actually moved into this home, she ended up living in Renton as well, which is completely night and day from this town. Let me just tell you, like, it's completely night and day. Renton is more of like an urban place, and then, this particular town was very, like, quiet, quaint, historical, a lot of, wilderness, animals, nature. It's kind of like a very foresty place at this present time, in the early 1990s. And to this present day, I'm going to be honest with you, it's changed a lot, and it's kind of sad, but we'll get into that, and hopefully I won't go off on a tangent like I already did once before. So anyway, about 13 or so, my mom was tired of making this commute, which is about 40 minutes from Renton. She was sick and tired of doing it. So she ended up asking me, hey, Jen, is it okay if we go back to so-and-so town? And I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that. I've always had a fascination with this town, especially because ever since I was a little girl, this is pretty much all that I knew. I'd make frequent trips here. I had like a kind of like a determined like notion about the people in this particular town. It's kind of sad to say, but I just felt like I felt like it was a different world, because Renton is it's a mix of people. All different cultures, all different backgrounds, all different, types of walks of life. And this particular town, I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say it. There was only about a couple types of, races. And I was not used to that. I was used to being with a whole bunch of different types of people. I love diversity. I love all different types of walks of life. I think that's what's so interesting about, the human makeup, or like humans in general, whatever I'm trying to say. But just to go to a town that there's like only a couple different types of, races and cultures, it's like, where's everybody else at? It's like getting a pack of Skittles and you've only got red and pink. What the hell? I mean, or not even. It was like orange and yellow or something. I don't even know. That isn't actually a reference, by the way. I'm just saying, like, somebody's going to link that to something and be like, you're not Jen, you're racist. No, definitely not. Anyway, I'm going to say that town most certainly was. Let me just go put it out there, which is disgusting. At least that's what I felt, that they were kind of racist, but whatever. Let's not get into that. See, here I go again. Okay, anyway, so we ended up moving back, and I thought for sure, I was the cool girl. I knew everybody. I knew all different types. I thought I was going to bring something different, because I had already this perceived notion that these people were just so different, and like they lived in the box. But no, I was completely wrong. I thought for sure I was going to be like the most popular girl ever. No, I was the loser. I was the outcast. I was the person like, oh my God, she's like from Renton. There was like one African American person there. I'm not even kidding. And I like tried to be friends with him. Like I really did. Cause and he was from Renton. They would say, oh, that's Trenton from Renton. I'm like, what the freaking hell does that even mean? Anyway, he was actually really popular and wanted nothing to do with me, which was like, okay, cool. So whatever, I'm like, fine, screw you then. He like made fun of me. I don't know. It was just silly. So anyway, we ended up moving. I thought it was going to be like super duper popular because I was popular in Renton. I had all these friends. I went to every single elementary school and it just branched into this one middle school. And I was like, for sure, like I knew everybody. I had so many different types of friends and everybody loved me and I loved them, and I wasn't really an outgoing person, but I didn't realize that I wasn't that outgoing until I was thrown into a completely different environment that I was not comfortable in at all. So when I had moved to this particular town, I was completely like bewildered, thrown out of my element, cuckoo, whatever. I had realized where I was living was a very different place, and not for good reasons. I didn't like the fact that everybody there came from wealth, which is fine. If you have money, that's fine. But it wasn't that they had money. It was how they acted about it. They acted like exactly, Trenton from Renton. They liked him, but it wasn't, but they used to make fun of him because he was from Renton. And it's just like, what the hell? Because, because Renton isn't a place of wealth. Renton is not, there are people with money, but like, it's just kind of, it's looked down upon for some stupid reason. I don't know. Anyway, so I ended up living there and moving there. I actually became friends with a couple people who had like not ancient roots, but history living in this town. They were Native American, and I really became super fascinated with the history of this place. I did not like the people because I felt like they were too judgmental. I felt like they were just, kind of exploiting people in a way, and they weren't being nice. This changes later on, by the way, but like when I had moved there originally, I mean, it was just completely different. So anyways, I ended up becoming really fascinated with history, and I ended up kind of really like researching it and getting my head into the books and just kind of seeing about this town that I now lived in. This town was actually, in my eyes, it still belongs, but it belonged to the Native American people, and I still believe that it does. And the sad thing about it is that we were never actually really taught any Native American history while I lived here and went to school here. In the entire middle school and high school experience, the only time that any Native American history came up was the time that we had to change our mascot from the Indians to the Eagles, because the Native American people wanted it. And I respected that, obviously, full-heartedly. But the fact that we had to argue, like, we had to, we were trying to fight it. We were, they were. Like, well, come on, you're on their land. Respect what they want. Like, they don't need to have you here, okay? See, this is where I get, like, hyphy. I mean, and it's kind of weird because if you look at the history of this place, you'll actually see that it says, like, the American history. It's like, this town is named particularly after, the sound of birds, little stream. This is what it all means. It is Native American land. Like, you need to teach the history of the land. At least that's what I think. I mean, let's be realistic. There's so much of that in Washington. Like, Washington is just, there's so many places, but to actually be living on a place where there's so much history, and I've heard of some horrific things that have happened to some of the people who have lived here, people of color, Native American people, just some really horrific things, old wives' tales, rumors, things that have actually been proven to be factual. And this is how the paranormal stuff comes in. It's no surprise that this town is freaking haunted. Like, I believe it 122%. I remember having a conversation with one of my friends, and we were walking past this old pool, and he goes, basically my people were hung from these trees. And I was like, oh my God, like these very same trees that have been there for hundreds of years, his people were hung from. Like, oh my Lord, like, and how come, like, I like even try to research this, I don't really see anything on the history of it. It's kind of creepy. It's like, basically this town has like shoved all this stuff under the rug and made it like something it's not. Anyway, so there's just like a lot of that's kind of in this place. And a lot of people who live here, or have lived there, they would always experience paranormal stuff. I remember I had a friend, she lived up in one of these mountains, and all the mountains have, you know, Native American names, and even some of the streets, it's very, very, very prevalent. It's like very close to an Native American reservation. I'm getting like choked up because like I've been talking so long, and you know, there's just so much history. So and people say that Native American grounds are very spiritually active, and I find that so amazing. I'm so interested in all that. Like I love that kind of stuff, and I believe it. I absolutely friggin' believe it. So let's get into the paranormal stuff, shall we? My friend, she lived in one of these mountains, and I remember her telling, she's like, I swear to you, like, my house is haunted, you know, I would hear people staying over at the house, and, like, the stereos would turn on, and weird things would happen, but nobody died in the house. It was just the grounds. And then I remember my mom, she would work, in like very similarly close to where my sister's house was built, and there would be so much paranormal stuff happening outside the grounds, in the grounds, just a whole bunch of stuff. Even in some of the apartment buildings that we lived in, you know, people didn't die there because we were new, but a lot of, I remember like one day me and my husband were on the couch and the blinds just like somebody slapped them with their hands, and the whole thing, and we didn't have pets or anything, like there was no way that could have happened. And you know, like things, little things like that had happened, and this was after this paranormal experience I'm about to tell you happened. And so like I've been always like really heightened about that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and take it back a notch to when I was 10 years old. Before my mother and I had even moved back to this town, my sister at this time, again, had just bought in the house. I think she bought it in around 1999, thus making me about 10, 11 when this incident occurred. So I would spend many, many, many nights over at my sister's house because my mom would work night shift at the nursing home just basically down the street where all of her incidents would occur. And there would be numerous times that I would actually have to, you know, stay there and whatever the situation was. And I would never think anything of it because I was just a little kid, you know. And this is why it bothers me so much. They say children and pets are really susceptible to paranormal things happening to them. So just a little like kind of diagram. This house is placed basically on the base of where a mountain is formed, and then there is a funeral parlor right behind the house, and it is one of the I think it's the only funeral parlor in this particular town, and it is very like historical in itself. Like it's been around for quite a long time, passed on to many generations. It's actually ironic because when I worked in childcare, there was the great granddaughter of the person that actually had owned this this funeral home, and it's just really funny because I don't know if it's the grounds that led to this incident or it's this funeral home, but gosh, there were just so many things batting against me for this to happen. I just don't know which one it was. So anyway, one night my mom had dropped me off, and it was probably around 11 o'clock or so. And at this time, Beanie Bobbies, do the Ricky Bobby, Beanie Babies were super duper popular. So I had brought my Beanie Baby Halo with me, which is now a famous Beyonce song. And I remember going and saying goodnight to everybody and giving everyone a kiss on the cheek. And up until this incident, I had been sleeping in one of the rooms furthest. So basically, if you were to walk up those stairs there, the room that is the first one from the stairs, that's the room that I would sleep in. And basically, even though it looks furnished in this particular build, I assure you that it wasn't. Like the rest of the house was immaculately done, but for some reason this home was just kind of like bare. Like it was all white, and there was like a tiny little window. You couldn't even see out of it, and it was facing the alley where the whatchamacallit, the funeral home was. So anyway, and there was also like this really mysterious door too behind the actual door to the room, and I would sleep in there. It's like, and they had 2 other bedrooms upstairs. I'm like, why would you put me in this one? Like, why? It was just, I felt like Cinderella or something. I don't know why I was put into this room, but anyway, okay. So in this house there was L-shaped stairs. Unfortunately, we don't have those in the Sims 4, so I couldn't do it. But I was saying goodnight to everybody, and I was walking down downstairs through the foyer, going basically up those stairs that you see. And as I was walking up the stairs, I turned to the left, and I had my Beanie Baby in my arm, and I looked up, Oh my God. And as I looked up, the door was only cracked half open, which I thought was really strange because usually the door was always shut or wide open. For some reason, it was just cracked, like half, like someone had just opened it. And I'm standing there, maybe like 5 steps down, and I look up. And when I look up, there is like this phantom shadow just kind of in the air, maybe 2 or 3 feet, and it's just hovering there. And as it's hovering there, I can distinctly see it fades from a white on the top down to this black, ghastly figure, and it has a tail to it. As I blink my eyes, it's still there, but it flies up into the air and it disappears. I scream, you guys. Chills are up and down my freaking arms. Being the age of 10, I had never really experienced anything like this before. I didn't know what I was seeing, and I scream. I scream to the high heavens, and all of a sudden, my mom, my sister, they come flying in from outside. They toss their cigarettes, and they're like, "What's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong? Are you okay? Whatever the situation is." Because as I was coming down the stairs, I was like skidding. I was like, boom, 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 boom. Like I have never in my life tried to like just book it out of a certain situation like that ever. I was scared. I was terrified. As anybody would be, really. And I go up to my mom and I just like grab her and I'm like, Mom, I saw a ghost. Mom, I saw a ghost. Like, it wasn't even in my head, nothing had ever happened to anybody in the house. Nothing had ever, like, even so much as occurred there to ever think that something like that would ever happen, And I told my sister, and my sister's like, "Oh, Jen, you're probably just seeing things, da 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 da." I'm like, first of all, there's no cars that come through that alleyway. There's just not. It's too small. And the window that it's there, you can't even see through it because it's so freaking fogged up and glassy. There was no way that wasn't real. And the thing was, it was like right there in between the door. Like, it was, you just know, when you know. I knew for a fact what I saw was literally out of this world. And I told my sister, and she just never believed me. She just was completely in denial. She swears to this day nothing has ever happened to her. But yet, every time my mom goes and stays over at her house, my mom will not sleep in that room. And it's funny now because the rooms that she used to have like stuff in, she has completely made that room a storage room. That door is always shut, you guys. I swear to you. And the thing is when you go into that room before, it was so cold, so eerie, so damp. You know what I mean? It was just chilly. The rest of the house is warm. There was just something about that room from day one that never, ever made sense to me. It was just completely like an isolated part of the house, completely different. And it was really weird because I feel like there's something in that room. And I don't know why it chose to come out at me, and I might be crazy. And I might be like, you might think I'm nuts, but I don't know why it did that, why it came to me, why it showed its face to me, why. And I don't know what it is. It did not look like a figure of a person. It looked demonic. And that's what scares me the most, is it didn't look like anything happy or anything positive. It didn't, people say ghosts don't want to hurt you, but that didn't look like a ghost. It looked like something demonic to me. And that's what scares me the absolute most. So from that day on, I never stepped foot in that house. When I ended up having to live there at the age 14 to 15, I begged my mom. I begged her. I said, "Mom, please, 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 I don't want to live there. I know what I saw." And she's like, "Jen, I understand, but like, we don't have any other choice right now." Like, we really didn't. And I remember I would bear it because like my mom and my sister, sometimes they'd be working nights or whatever, and I would literally I'd be by my freaking self in this house. And if it was going to happen again, it was going to happen then. I was 122% convinced that something else was going to happen. And you know what? I don't know if it did. I don't know if it didn't. I would seriously barricade myself in my room. I lost so much weight living there because I would never eat. I'm serious. Like, if it was past like when my mom and my sister would leave for work, I would go upstairs into my room. I would barricade myself in. I would bring snacks, and that was literally it. I would not go downstairs. I would not go anywhere. If I had to go pee, you guys, seriously, if I had to go pee, I would book it to the bathroom that you guys see here, because my room was like the one, when you go up the stairs, my room was the one that, as you can see, I was kind of like making it into a children's room. That was my room, and then the bathroom was across the hall, and then the scary bedroom that isn't so scary in this build, that's the one that I would avoid. And sometimes I would seriously contemplate peeing in a bottle because that's how terrified I was. And then at night, I would have to sleep with the lights on or TV on. I could never sleep with quiet because I would hear floorboards creaking. I would hear, you know, sometimes you could hear like the door shake. You guys, I can't even talk about this. Like I would hear like the door, like the handle rattling. And I would just think it was like, you know, my mom or my sister coming home. And then I'd find out that they didn't even come home until later on that morning. It was just creepy little incidents would happen ever since then. And it was like whatever it was there wanted to torment me. But because I never gave it an opportunity for me to see its face again or whatever it was, I never ended up actually seeing it again. But little things like that did happen. You know, the creaking of the floorboards. I would hear, you know, like the doors and stuff like that. There was a couple incidences. I remember that the house alarm would go off because there was a system in the house, and it was like doors would open and then the alarms would go off, and I'd be by myself. Just stuff like that. Like I felt like I was losing my freaking mind, and you know, it scared me because nobody really believed me, minus my mom. My mom believed me 100%, but my sister didn't, and to this day, she still does not believe anything had ever occurred in that house. And I don't know if it's denial. I don't know if something did happen to her and she just won't admit it. But I believe that she believes me, and deep in her heart, I do. I really do, because I think that, you know, admitting something does live or did live or it does exist in that house would be admitting, that it's real. And something else I want to tell you guys that's so creepy about this land and the place that my sister lives. Every single person on that block, you guys, has gotten cancer. Now, male, female, it doesn't matter. They've all got cancer. And a lot of them have died or have come close to death. There is something on that land, you guys, that is completely unexplainable. And it's kind of weird because my mom even lived there and she ended up getting cancer too. My sister got cancer twice living there. Her neighbors, there was a guy across the street, he got cancer and he died. Like, there's something, and I don't know if that has to tie in to the historical part of it, you know, it being Native American land, and, you know, that maybe there's people that, you know, that their spirits don't want people living there, or, you know, because there was a lot of people who didn't respect that land, you know, maybe it's cursed. I mean, there's a lot of theories that could be going on here. I'm just like, I'm about to do some damn history. But yeah, it's just really fascinating to me. And basically that was the experience that I had there. It's very short, very brief, but I think the main story is all the history and all this, you know, stuff that goes on in this town, and it's kind of hush hush and it's kind of crazy. And I truly believe that this town is haunted to the fullest freaking extent, and in ways that people probably never even imagine. But basically, in a nutshell, that was my story about, you know, my history of my experience living in this town. And I actually ended up moving from this particular place at the age of 22, and I haven't looked back. I do visit there sometimes, and you can just tell it's a very eerie town. Like at night, you know, the fog comes through and it's very dark and dreary. There's always mist of rain. It rains a lot there. It's very spooky. It's a very spooky place. It's beautiful, but very spooky. Now it's just too expensive. Like, you could never afford to live there. Like, one bedroom is like $2,200. And that's another thing. It's like turned into like this very historical place, into this like, you know, utopia of Ritz and wealth and snobs and snoots. And I don't like it anymore. It's nothing like it used to be. And it's kind of sad to see it lose its history like that. And you know what? If there is spirits there, I don't blame them for being angry. Because hell, I would too. I would too. It's disgusting what people do to make $1 in exposing and you know, taking advantage of the land that has a lot of history to it. So anyways, guys, with that said, I am done with this build. I am finished with the Alder. I did add in a few things later on into the build, a little more decor items, things I did off camera just because it was more easier for me to focus. But I hope you guys enjoyed my story, and I hope you enjoyed the build. If you did, please let me know in the comments down below where the sun does not shine, and also feel free to share with me any of your spooky time stories. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys!